This is Bloomberg Businessweek with Massar and Tim Stenovec on Bloomberg Radio.
Jess, Menton, and Madison Mills here in the Bloomberg Interactive Broker Studio. And I have to say, Maddie, I'm really excited over the next two segments we're about to have. We also have some food in front of us. Smells
Mozzarella.
So wonderful.
Where's
we have
Charlie
these
Pellet with the
artisanal meats, cheese, crackers. So who better to chat with us about when we're talking about this American family farm system that his company is trying to save. So Matthew Gatto, Chief Operating Officer and Head of Farm Partnerships at True Story Foods here in the Bloomberg Interactive Broker Studio. Always great having guests in the office with us in our New York headquarters. Tell our listeners about True Story Foods and what your mission is.
Yeah, well, thanks so much for having me. It's great being here. And at True Story, I guess to start with, our background is about 3 generations in the food business, and there's a lot of history there. I'd love to talk about that in a bit. But True Story, the mission really was to connect a community around delicious food, around taking care of all the partners in the supply chain. So the farmers, the respect for the animals, and also the team members that are handcrafting these products.
And tell our audience where you're based.
So we're based out of California, right outside of San Francisco.
Okay, and talk to us about, I know you mentioned the ethical and humanly raising animals is really key to your mission. Talk to us about what that looks like for you.
Yeah, so we partner, I guess we started the company not from the further processed items that we make, but we started at the farm level. So we actually went out to farms, ranches, and connected with those family farms, made sure that they had the same values of antibiotic-free, vegetarian-fed, crate-free. Those were all standard requirements that we wanted to have our producer network have the same values as we did.
How many family farms do you currently work with?
So we have over 150 family farms that we work with. We have our True Story is a natural and organic meat company. Make that clear, make sure all listeners know that. And we have a full line of deli meats and sausages and hot dogs and fresh pork that we offer. And we do it in both pork and turkey and chicken, and as well as beef.
And you mentioned that the family history is key to your mission as well. Talk to us about what that looks like.
Yeah, so my grandfather and his brother-in-law got into the salami business back in the 50s. They bought a small factory in San Francisco in the Italian district of North Beach. And a lot of people thought they were crazy. They were bartenders that got into the food business, but they made it work and built a successful business. Second generation got involved, being my dad and his brother and some cousins. And I grew up in the business. Charcuterie was in my blood. I had the opportunity to go to Italy and see some of the old world techniques that the craftsmen over there use to create these great products. So I was passionate about it. I jumped into the business, and that business was actually sold in 2000. But my dad and I were passionate about working with farmers, with creating the highest quality products. And so we partnered with 2 other families in California, one of them being the Engleharts, had 4 generations in the sausage business. So had the same values that we had, and we created True Story to continue our good food journey.
What are these lesser known breeds of pigs that you're using for pork products?
Yeah, I love talking about our pork program because it's so important when making our products. You got to start with the highest quality raw materials that come from animals that were raised the way they used to be raised before the invention of factory farms. So that is outdoors, crate-free, antibiotic-free, and veg-fed. And so we go back to some of the heritage breeds, especially on our pork program with Kura Buddha, which is also known as Berkshire, and also some Duroc influenced genetics as well. And so the Berkshire breed, I love talking about the Berkshire breed because it goes back to the 19th century, and it was known for a really sweet flavor. It was known for a darker red color, a lot of marbling, which fat is flavor, and it tastes completely different than what traditional pork tastes like here in the U.S. So I get really excited about it. It eats more like Wagyu, like steak, than it does pork. And that's what we have here for you to try later on if you want. Is our
my God.
prosciutto, or
Oh,
Carabutta
yeah.
prosciutto, and some of our salami as well, made with our pork from our farms.
Okay, this is kind of boring, but I have to ask it, and then we'll start to do the more fun stuff where we get to eat in a little bit. We're Bloomberg, so I have to ask you about the economy. How do these different breeds that you're talking about within your pork program play into the kind of inflationary picture that we've been seeing with meat costs and things like that? How does that work?
Yeah, great question. So I mentioned how our values, and one of our values is taking care of our producer partners. So we have a fair trade like process when we work with our producers. So we look at the cost of the biggest inputs that go into the animal, which are grains.
Yeah.
And so we look at the cost of those grains and we say, okay, the animal should cost this, and we're going to add a premium on top of that. So it's not market driven, which is something unique because with the markets, especially the pork market, the market has been lower than what the actual cost of production is. So farmers have been losing money out there, but on our program, we're based off of the input costs. So it's, they're able to succeed and thrive during times when other commodity producers have a hard time making ends meet.
Yeah.
What do you think that tells us about inflation? Because input costs, producer prices have been a large part where they started moving lower well ahead of, say, consumer prices. But I'm curious kind of how you view things from the industry that you work in.
Mm-hmm. Well, we've definitely experienced a lot of inflationary pressures over the last 12 to 18 months. I think things have, on our side, stabilized. And for our input costs that we work with our producers on, the price of corn and soybean meal and other inputs are going down. So we don't see prices continuing to escalate the way that they have in the last 12 to 18 months.
So
hopefully we hold things steady here. That's kind of where we want to be.
Kind of an optimistic sign there.
I know. I think the Federal
Don't
Reserve
call it-
would agree with you.
Yeah,
Right.
don't consider me
Is
any
the
kind of
Fed
expert
listening?
over here, but yeah, that's my 2 cents.
No, but I think that you have a fantastic view on kind of what this is looking like because you're in it every day. Like the Fed wants to talk to people like you about what prices are looking like.
Right. The Fed's Beige Book, where they go across, they have their districts, and then they talk to businesses in the different regions from the Fed district. So it's interesting from your perspective where you are in California, which obviously I would think inflation still, even if it is ebbing a bit, California is expensive, even more expensive than New York is.
Yeah, there's definitely been no signs of stopping the real estate market and that market in California and the rest of the country as well. So yeah, we're it's an expensive place to live, but it's a beautiful place to live too.
Yeah. So what are you anticipating then if inflation is going away according to your economic outlook, which I love? What is the biggest potential obstacle that you are pricing into your outlook for the second half of this year?
So supply is still something that has been difficult with our producer network. We're always looking for producers that want to grow and new producers to come into our network. But that is still something that the pain is still
Why
near
is that?
in terms of the big jump in corn prices in particular that they've seen and have had to pay in terms of raising animals. So I think the suddenness of the increase is what caused some people to say, well, I'm happy where I'm at. I don't want to grow the program at this point, and let's just wait and see where things go.
We only have about 45 seconds left before we go to our next segment for the break, but what's sort of the top question you get from when you're working with these other family farms that you hear from them about maybe some of their concerns right now?
Yeah, I think for the most part, they want to know, are we going to sell more? How is the product selling through in the retail channel? And I always tell them that, as long as they keep doing what they're doing great, we're going to continue to focus on further processing the product and marketing it with all the great benefits that we have from their hard work on the farm.
After getting the landscape, Matthew, of the background of your company, I wanted to change things up because I know Maddie was curious about this as well. When it comes to the regulation side of things, and especially when it comes to this Supreme Court decision that rejected a challenge to California's Proposition 12 with this farm animal confinement initiative, tell us about that and how something like this ends up impacting a company like yours.
Well, true story from the beginning, animal welfare has been key attribute that we've looked at promoting with our products. And the Prop 12 is basically a gestation crate free program that they've implemented in California. True Story has been cage free from the beginning. We started the company back in 2012. And so that was one of our initial values is not having animals in crates or cages. So we've been supporting the Proposition 12. And I don't know, a lot of people don't know what a gestation crate is.
Right.
I don't know.
I was
either
going to
you
ask
know
you
what-
to
please
explain
tell
it
us.
to our audience. Yeah.
So a gestation crate, it's a crate during the gestation period for a mama pig, a sow, where she's confined to an area where she can only lay down and stand up for the period of her pregnancy.
Yeah.
And for the whole period. So that's
Wow.
typically a 4-month period from start to finish that the sow is in that gestation crate. So we just feel it's very inhumane treatment for the sow. In California, the consumers in California felt the same way as they voted in favor of Prop 12. It also applies to laying hens on chickens, that they can't be cage free as well for laying hens, and for baby calves on the veal side, they can't be confined. So we've supported it. In California has voiced their opinion that it's important, something that they value. And we'll see whether it gains traction in other states, but I think there's definitely other consumers that the humane treatment and respect for raising animals is of value.
Yeah. Well, it's really interesting because there is some pushback, as always, that it's still leaving the pigs in cages, even with the farms that are going to be working in accordance with the Prop 12 ruling. And obviously you are cage free. Can you just give us kind of some insight into what the biggest difference is between still having like larger cages for these animals versus going completely cage free?
So the requirement for Prop 12 on the pork side for California is the sow needs to have 24 square feet to move around. So the typical style that the industry would have to move to would be an open gestation pen. So it would be a large pen where the sows would be able to move around, turn around freely, and not be confined just to a 7x4 box.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it difficult to get a reading too when it comes to other players that are in your industry as far as how they're impacted as well?
It's hard for me to discuss other programs other than our own. I know that this Proposition 12 has been in the works. It got passed in 2018 and then got extended till January of 2023. So it's something that the industry has known that it's been in place, and some people in the industry move forward with making the changes, and others haven't.
Yeah.
And
yeah. I guess I wonder, and we talked about this a little bit in the break, but why not just go cage free? Obviously it has to be a financial reason. So what is the biggest impediment to more farmers going cage free completely like you do? Yeah.
Every farm has a different situation. I think in high level, and I think it's an economic hurdle in order to make the change from having those crates to not having crates. But in a large picture, it's a very small cost when it relates to the animal. So it's something that at least we feel is viable for the industry to move in that direction, but everyone is different, and that's just our perspective and our value system. And there's other farmers out there that think that it's a better way to raise an animal, and that's their belief. And so if they want to continue doing that, that's their prerogative. But for us and our consumer, they definitely want to have a cage-free, crate-free animal, and that's what we believe in as well.
Right, because you were talking about the economic challenges of it and then the financial challenges of it too. Kind of expand on that and how you sort of are able to rectify and sort of square that away in other corners of your business.
So in our business, the way that we've made it work with our producers, first of all, we work with very small family farms that they've raised animals in a crate-free environment. A lot of them are fifth generation. I haven't talked about Russ Kramer, who leads our pork co-op, but he's been a fifth generation hog farmer in the Ozark Hills of Missouri, and that program started maybe with 15 families, and that program's grown to over 75 families that are raising pigs and have always raised pigs crate free and with outdoor access, and it's a real success story. So I think there's more models like that can be applicable to the hog business and to other businesses that we support and want to help grow.
Final 30 seconds with us. What do you think is the biggest misconception about the kind of state of family farming in the U.S. right now?
Well, managing and running a farm is difficult, and it's difficult for farmers to change, and it's difficult to get. A lot of farmers are aging out of what they can do best, which is working their fields and their barns. So bringing the next generation in, I think that's going to be one of the biggest challenges. It has been one of the biggest challenges to attract those next generation sons and daughters that come back to the farm.
Well, it's been so great having you with us in studio, Matthew Gatto, Chief Operating Officer and Head of Farm Partnerships at True Story Foods, here in the Bloomberg Interactive Broker Studio with myself and Madison Mills. So great hearing about this. And then also, y'all came by and gave us also some of these artisanal meats. So delicious being able to eat all of these. Almost done with all of them. But we'll have more coming up shortly. This is Bloomberg.